What's good, people? It's your boy, Icarus Gray. And we are back with Gray Area Anime, the podcast. I don't feel like I needed to add that, but it's the
I hope they know. I hope they know. And
as always, Primitive is in the building.
Hello.
And today, my friends, it's time for, you guessed it. Did you guess it? An anime rewind. Which is basically, for those who may be new or have skipped the other episodes of this, we watch an anime from our youth or something that is older. In general, it's vintage, classic.
Yeah.
Would be considered all-time great.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be, at least 5 to 10 years old. Somewhere in a range of just having enough time to where we've had some time to sit with it. Had some time to kind of let it marinate. But
Old
anyway,
and ended, right?
has to be old and ended.
Yes.
Cannot be ongoing.
Completed.
That would not be a rewind. That would be a play.
Okay.
So that is the breakdown in this segment, and the anime that we are watching is Samurai Champloo, which is basically a samurai western hip hop movie TV show.
Yes.
It watches like all of these things.
What does that mean, Icarus?
So what it means is there are a lot of traditional anime aspects in this. It's very feudal Japan, which would mean samurais, old world, emperors,
Geishas.
the whole nine.
Yeah.
Yakuza in a different way. The start of the mafia is the Yakuza or the gang members, to make it even more simplified.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who may not know what a Yakuza is, you may just hear this word and be like, man, it's like mafia. For those who don't know what the mafia is, it's like a gang, an organized gang, very smart and organized gang. So anyway,
the best gangs are. They don't last long if they're not smart and organized. They usually are here today, gone tomorrow.
But anyway, that is a general breakdown of Samurai Champloo. We do have 2 other episodes after watching episode 1 and 2 of the anime rewind. So go and check those out if you have not already. And also watch the anime along with us. These rewinds and breakdowns are kind of companion pieces, which is my favorite word, to watching the anime. Now, I'll do my best to break it down if you just want to listen to us talk, but I promise that it'll broaden your horizons a little bit if you watch and listen, because I'm giving or doing my best to give perspective from both aspects. So in this episode, we're going to break down episodes 3 and 4, because the other name of the episode is Hellhounds For Hire, part 1 and part 2.
Yes.
Or 3 and 4. So we wanted to just do them as one episode instead of like breaking them up. Because we can't leave you guys on cliffhangers all the time. Plus, we've been lacking on the content department, and we want to give y'all the good content.
Okay.
Pay you back.
Nice. Nicely said there.
So, we'll start with episode 3, Hellhounds For Hire, part 1, which I just broke down, but still. So, enter Mugen Jin Fu. And for those who don't know, Mugen is basically a unpolished raw diamond. He can be a beautiful diamond, but he's just unrefined, so to speak. Jin is our refined samurai moral code. It doesn't go outside of the lines much, is very grounded in morals, whereas Mugen is like, wherever I feel like going today is where I'm going. And Fu is us. She is the driving, she is the storyline, she is our viewpoint, she is innocence, she is wholesomeness in a certain way, and she is the driving force of the series, as I've said before in probably episode 1. But it starts with them talking about what it is they're going to do next. This is following episode 2, where they've escaped the first bounty on their heads from the gentleman in first one who was not first one. I'm a rapper.
1,
Apologies.
The Lord, the crime lord.
Yeah, the random crime lord's friend that burned.
Oh,
the place
yes,
up.
that's right.
So anyway,
yeah,
so
the crazy man.
Yes, yes. So we're following off the tail of that. They're deciding what they're going to do next, and without even having a conversation, well, they had a small bit of a conversation. Mugen and Jin are like, you know what? It's time to get up out of here. She can't catch both of us. You go one way, I go the other way. And you don't know that that's what they're saying, but they're having a little conversation. He's like, what are you guys doing? And they just run off like, I'm going to go do what I want to do. I have no obligations to stay here. So they run off, and you start to meet a couple or two different people. Mugen, I think, meets Nagatomi Rikai, which is the Yakuza boss of the town. Or one of the Yakuza boss of the town. There are two opposing gangs. There is a gang that has been Yakuza for years, but ruled in the way of Black Panther or, social activists. Like, there were things they did, but it was more for the people, more for the community. Whereas the newer gang, the Nagatomi, are more about just corruption and not controlling people by force, but controlling people with corruption. So Mugen meets him in the middle of a gambling. There's gambling going on. There's an old man there who is gambling, who has just been cheated out of a certain amount of money. You know how it is. It's probably like a deed or something to your land. And Mugen sees this, and he's kind of like, he's telling them, we don't do force. We use their money this way. We manipulate them, and then you rule them. You don't want them to fear you. You don't want them to fear you in a way of like, oh, I'm going to die. You want them to fear you in a way like you're still providing me something. Like, I want you to feel like I'm benevolent.
I got you back.
I don't know what's going on. But that. Yes, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I think what we're moving towards is the key difference that you're pointing out between both of the leaders. One of them, the one that's actually I would consider to be more righteous in this case, is a man of the people. Like you said, he's an outlaw, and they follow a code, which is really interesting. The other guy actually uses the law, the evil person, uses the law to oppress the people. Like, that's how he, that's where the corruption is. And I think that's really important to point out, is that the corruption is in the fact that he gets things from people or obtains things from people legally on paper, but through intimidation and other ways. That's how that's such a really interesting microcosm and look at it at a society from from that point of view. So I think that's really, really worth pointing out or looking into.
So he meets him, and he starts to talk about kind of like what he's trying to do, because he sees that he's strong, and kind of decides to bring him under his wing. But his main bodyguard was Ishimatsu is his name, and technically there are only 7 characters named in this episode. Everybody else is kind of ancillary, and it doesn't serve much purpose outside of being like fodder or somebody to kind of say boss or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they're having this conversation, and because a lot of things kind of lead up to these different points, but I'm just gonna hit the bullet points because we still got a whole nother episode to go. But it wraps up pretty quick. Anyway, So Mugen is talking to Nagatomi, the boss, or his name is Rikai, but the Nagatomi boss is what I'm going to say, just to make it a little easier. And he's explaining the world, explaining what he's trying to do, how he's trying to do it, and why he would like Mugen to be a part of that. Ishimatsu don't really like that because they're like, bro, this dude ain't, he's not, he can't be in control. Like, what are you doing? Like, I thought I was your second right hand. He's like, man, if none of y'all could have killed him, if we have that kind of intimidation, nobody can mess with us. And it's kind of right in that kind of age and era. So on the other side of town, you meet Sosuke and Ozuru.
Osuzu.
Okay.
That's what I have. I apologize.
No, I'm just saying.
My information may be corrupted.
No, it's not corrupted. I'm just saying. Okay, I appreciate the help. But anyway, so she's tutoring him in, I think like just general lessons or something. It's obvious that he has a crush on her. And what happens is one of the guys from the Nagatomi gang comes by and pressures them about money that her dad lost in gambling. Yes. And what they do, their intimidation tactic is, well, you don't have to go to jail, or we won't kill you if you sell your daughter to us. Now, a theme in this episode, or in these two episodes, that is or can be common of anime is just when they go vile, or when they go on these degrading aspects of how women can be treated or used, they do the things that can feel like a Law and Order SVU episode. And it's just kind of like doom doom, like how did we end up here kind of thing. Like, is the value that low of somebody's life? Like, somebody's always offering themselves up in some way. So while this is happening, and basically what they're wanting to do is, not like rape her, but they put her. Go ahead.
No. Ahead. I'm just joking.
They put her in a position of working out of a whorehouse or a prostitution ring or a brothel. It's probably a better word.
6 on one, half a dozen on the other. But yes.
While this is happening, Fu is walking down the street. She's not paying attention. She bumps. I say bumps in quotation marks because a guy kind of slid behind her, made her break this vase. It's a general scam of this vase cost $1 million. How are you going to repay it? Well, I have a way for you to repay it. You need some money? You can repay it working out of this brothel.
Yes.
And it's one of those, like, the main point of it is just strange. But it's often a thing, like I said, that happens in animes just because they're trying to move story along. But it's also like, does everything have to be about, sex, money, drugs kind of thing? And that's why I said this is kind of like the stereotypical hip hop equivalent in that sense.
And I guess that's a good way of looking at that, because again, like we said in the previous episodes, it's very much, and we kind of alluded to it at the beginning, it's very much about marrying the old world aesthetic with new world issues, and commenting on a today society using old world aesthetics. So yeah. Right.
So all the while, now that Ozuru or Ozuzu has been taken, the son Sosuke goes, runs into not Mugen, Jin, and asks him to be his bodyguard because he wants to go and get her. So they saddle up. He dresses him up like a geisha because they also like doing that. Jin looks immaculate. He is the most tall, beautiful woman you have ever seen in your life with
Good
no body
Lord.
shape whatsoever.
It is. I was gonna say, and it's really funny when you see it, just because it's like, that is clearly a man, but the makeup is so. I'm not gonna lie, it's so well done.
So they're gonna sneak in like, hey, I've brought this girl to sell.
That's a tall girl.
And as soon as they get in, it's like immediate, like, all right, let's go, let's rescue her. She tells him she's not going to go because her sense of honor is, I don't want my father in debt. I want to pay my father's debt. If this is what I have to do, this is what I have to do. I don't have any other choice because this gang will kill him or kill us if I don't.
Yes.
And it's at this point that Mugen sees Jin. And they're like, man, it seems like we always got to, and to be continued is what happens. They're about to fight.
And you know what? When you said that, I almost did dun 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 dun. Did the little back from JoJo's Bizarre for whatever reason.
I don't know if that was it, but I
don't know if that was it either. But that's immediately what came to mind. I'm not even kidding. Anyway.
So to pick up from the end of episode 3, and again, we leave a couple things out because there are like some color text, but I'm gonna like explain the episode as a whole, or what I think the meaning between these two episodes was toward closer to the end. So we unfreeze. Now they're fighting a little bit, but Fu's like, what are y'all doing? Y'all should not be fighting each other.
Because mind you, they're fighting right in front of her cage. She's in a cage with the rest of the women, and Jin and Mugen are fighting each other on opposite sides for warring gang factions. Moving forward,
they don't care about it.
They don't care about none of that.
Well, Jin cares about the duty of what he was doing because he was also taking Sosuke kind of under his arm and kind of teaching him some honor things like, hey, bro, like if you're not strong enough to do this, you really shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, you need to get stronger. Be smart.
So basically, the Nagatomi boss is what I'm gonna say because I mess up on his name so frequently. Decides like, all right. Now everybody surround them and kill them. And Mugen's like, hey fam, no. That's not how this works. We're fighting. This is a one-on-one fight.
Yes.
I just want to fight strong people. If you get in my way, I'm going to kill you. And he kills one of the guys and runs off. Well, he kills one of the guys and then it causes enough commotion that Jin or Sosuke throw down a smoke bomb and they get out of there.
I think it was them both. Yeah. Yeah.
And so Mugen and Nagatomi boss have a conversation like, you know, I'm doing this for power. Like, I don't care nothing about whether or not we get them like today. We'll get them when we need to get them, but this is all about power. This is all about control. It's, you know, you can have whatever you want. And he's like, nah. Like, I'm more free than that. Like, the desires that I have are not contained by your greed, your wealth, your corruption, your need for power.
Yeah.
And he leaves. I mean, he doesn't say it that eloquently. He says it in a Mugen way, like, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Exactly.
But still.
Bottom line.
While this happens, the Fu and Ozuzu have a conversation over the night, just kind of like, well, why don't you leave? And she's like, I want to stay because of my family. I have an honor to my family. And, you know, I don't want my family in disarray. And she tells her, you know, like, should you not know the same? Do you not have family? And, you know, Fu has this sad look on her face because we don't know her family situation, but you can tell from her reaction that, no, I really don't.
Yeah.
You know, at least in feeling. She immediately apologizes to her. And we go to the next day, where now the focus is on, and we don't see her dad again. Like, we see him twice, like in the beginning, and then we don't see him.
Not in this second episode. You're right. We don't see him ever.
We only see him in the first, but we don't see him again.
Yeah.
And
after we do see her after the fight. But yeah, you're right.
So they blah 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 blah. As I catch my thought process. So after that, fast forward to the next day, Sosuke walks up as two of the Nagatomi guys are talking to Ozuzu about, like, man, we've been waiting for this. Like, you know, you got to stay here. And, you know, they're pressing up on her and just making her generally feel uncomfortable. They're treating her like the property that they think she is. Mm-hmm. And so Sosuke's like, nah, bro.
I ain't going out like that.
And so, you know, he runs up on one of the guys, stabs him in the heart, kills him. And he's not a warrior in that sense. He's a kid, you know, he's a young teenager in that sense that has never murdered anybody. And you can see that grief on his face. Mm-hmm. But when you're fighting for the person you love and you're put in that position, you don't really have a choice, or so he felt. So with this, he's of course immediately captured, and Nagatomi is like, oh, perfect. Now I get to use Yakuza law to basically take control over everything. So here's the deal. And the Kawaras, or the boss, because he just calls him dad. I don't think they ever say his name. They just call him boss. But the Kawaras are now like, okay, the only way to get your son back, or not the Nagatomis are talking to the Kawaras. If I have not made
no, you're right. And Sasuke is actually the son of the leader of the Kawaras. Yes.
And so he's saying, okay, here's what we can do. Since you want to follow the laws would say a life for a life, and what we'll do is we'll gamble for it. We'll roll dice. And we'll roll the dice. If I win, my son lives and you get everything or something like that. Like, either way it was a lose-lose situation, because if he lost, then he'd kill his son, and it was just basically
if the Kawaras lost, they would go ahead, the Nagatomis would kill his son. If the Kawaras won, then the Nagatomis would release the son. However, they would gain control over all of the Kawara territory, which has been his goal the entire time. He wants their territory.
Okay. So when that happens, they also, put in the code of like, okay, you can provide the person that watches, we'll provide the person that rolls the dice. Mm-hmm. And immediately he's like, talking to Ishimatsu, and it's like, all right, so what we're gonna do is you go take care of their dice roller. Like, and if they don't show up, we get to use one of ours, and basically we'll cheat, we'll win. Blah.
Because that's what they've been doing this whole time.
Like, my whole thing is like, I don't really care. Like, either way we win, but I just want to make sure. So at this point that Fu has escaped the brothel, because there was a mole-shaped gentleman that tried to sleep with her, that she was not having it. Her squirrel, who I don't think has a name right now. Her squirrel,
I can't remember his name. Squirrel or chipmunk?
Probably chipmunk, but it's still flying squirrel because it's got the.
Oh yes, you're right.
So he bites the mole man's hand. Again, like I said, nobody else gets a name in this episode.
And the squirrel's been resting gently in her bosom this entire time. Or whatever. But it's just funny to me that we don't see the squirrel for I don't remember seeing it in the first episode. And out of nowhere, when Fu's about to get attacked, thank God the squirrel was on her person.
He popped up in one of those episodes.
I think in episodes 1 and 2, but I don't remember him in 3.
But no, he didn't pop him in 3.
Yeah.
So she gets out of there. And as she's getting out of there, she's like, all right, I got to get back to the gambling house. Because she had heard about what was going down with Sasuke. Mm-hmm. And so she hops in a taxi. She's on her way there. Of course, everybody's at the dice game, the Kawaras, the Nagatomis, Sasuke, Mugen, Jin, both of their gangs. And the dice person hasn't shown up. And they're like, all right, just give me one more minute. And the taxi that Fu got in arrives, and they end up mistaking her for the dice roller. Asked no questions. No one did. No one asked any questions.
Except Jin, who was like, what are you doing here? And no one acknowledged it. It was so funny.
They weren't important enough for them to like listen. So she gets there. Fu takes stock of the situation, and it's hilarious because initially it just seems like she's about to mess everything up, but then she goes right into, all right, this is what we're doing. How do we do it?
She put a whole other voice on and everything. It was
like, let's do it. Are you ready? Are you ready? And she like throws the dice off the wall and catches them
somehow.
And it was a 7, which means the Nagatomi won the bet. And with that, the Kawaras had no intention, in Noble, of letting his son die. He had no intention of that. And so what he does is senpaku is what I want to say it's called. Which
When
is
go ahead and explain what it is.
honor suicide. Basically, I will stab myself in the gut if I have forsaken any form of honor, or done something that is unbecoming or in a model way.
Or I'm about to go on and off me because I'm not going to let you do it. One or the other.
But anyway, it's all based in honor.
Won't give you the satisfaction.
And it's at this point that they're like, what? Wait, what? Everybody's a little stumbled. Nakatomi then decides, I've been a scumbag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold little man hostage because either way we got control, but...
And that's what makes it so sad is because he killed himself and it's like, but dude, what's to stop him from taking control of your territory anyways? But I'm sure you'll get to that in your explanation.
Yeah. So it's at this point that everybody's kind of around and it's like, all right, well, I guess this is it. I guess everybody's just going to start fighting.
It's popping off.
To which Mugen shows up and they're like, what are you doing back here? And he's like, what? He was looking for food. He came back for food.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm here for you now.
I ain't see nobody coming after me. Might as well get you.
And he's like, don't you care about this boy's life? No. You want some, old man? No.
Attacking people. Yes. No. Get your butt in the car. Why you come over here messing with these people? That's a little Friday humor, y'all. A little Friday humor.
When you explain it.
Well, because some people don't know what movie reference it is. I'm sorry. Watch Friday, y'all. Watch it. Anyway.
So, then at this point, he decides, all right, time to take everybody out because I'm just here to fight.
Yeah.
At this point, he like, I'm out of here, says the Rikai. He's like, I'm out of here, bro.
Yeah, the Nagatomi boss is like, I ain't in here for this.
Runs on out. To which he is then met by Ishimatsu. I don't know what I've said it 10 times and I keep forgetting. But anyway, so it's Ishimatsu. He meets him outside and he's like, get
back in there and save me.
Save me. And then Ishimatsu's like, no, dog, death.
Immediately. And it's so beautiful.
Because it gets its comeuppance. And then, at that point, like everybody else had won. Like, wasn't nobody going to be Mugen. And Mugen wasn't in there killing the Kawara gang.
Jin was already in there. And the rest of the gang was already going at it.
Yeah, so they were just taking out the Nagatomi gang.
Yeah.
So now the Kawaras have control back over the land and the district. And the moral, or I have a couple more things to kind of, I guess, touch on to wrap the episode up. So anyway, to wrap the episode up, Sosuke is now obviously the leader of the gang. He was the successor of the Kawaras anyway. And him and Ozuzu are together. They're able to be together. And, they're bidding farewell to Mugen, Jin, Fu. And Ishimatsu, he tells him, like, hey, you can come back, and be the bodyguard for us. And, my dad would have wanted that. And he's like, well, I'm going to follow the outlaw code and I'm going to go and atone for my sins. But once I've done that, I'll come back. I'll do what you asked me to do. It's at that point that Mugen is the only person that's missing from the farewell thing. I think I put him in there, but he's missing from this. Yes. So anyway, so they're about to leave, and Ishimatsu walks up on Mugen and says, hey, we got some unfinished business. Samurai code stuff. Like I said, this is all a mix, and I'll get to the big point. So anyway, so they do a samurai showdown, if you will, or a Wild West quick draw gunfight kind of thing. Mugen wins, slices Ishimatsu down. Ishimatsu dies and, dies smiling. So
I didn't see that smile.
Here is the moral of what this episode was about. The episode was about the old and the new. It was about honor versus, pure, young, dumb corruption. It was about what organized crime used to stand for versus what it stands for now in the new era.
And
The the reason that it didn't matter about whether when he killed himself, what it was about was the honor. In the general honor of it, in the general code, if I've atoned for this, we're square. And there are more people who follow that code. It's the reason why Ishimatsu killed him. Because it's like, you're not even respecting the honor. Like, I followed you initially because there was a power that you had. That's why I left. Because you showed some things, and I finally actually seen you for who you really are. Like, everything that you do and the way you had it set up was more of a facade to the honor and things that I had previously. Mm-hmm. The code, like, you follow the code. That's how things work. It's how we keep women and children and other people out of this and not involved, because this is not their fight. We take the fact that I will atone for the things that I've done the old school way, which is, I know that I'm not doing right. And I know that at some point I will have to pay for these things, versus I don't really care who pays for it. Just ain't going to be me.
Yes, I agree with that.
And, you know, with the ending of the episode of Mugen and Ishimatsu fighting, that was his form of atonement. Like, he had no intention of coming back, and he couldn't tell Sosuke that, because he's a kid who's not of that world. And that was the juxtaposition that you see. Like, this ain't his world. It's like, no, you should. Why do you have to pay this debt? Why do you have to do this? Like, what are you doing? Like, I have to stay here. Versus in the naive aspects of, if you're going to pull a sword, you need to use it. If the same thing as, like, if you got a gun,
put your life on the line. It's not for threatening.
You know, it's not for games. And this episode speaks volumes to that. That was where Mugen and Jin are connected in their different parts, because they were aligned with their thought process. But Mugen's thought process is more about freedom, and Jin is about honor in the truest sense of that.
And I think, so a couple things to add to that. One is, when you talk about the difference between Jin and Mugen, I think that the fact that Mugen fights in a breakdance kind of style, like in a b-boy kind of style, also speaks to that, because hip hop in a lot of ways was a breaking away, at least before, you know, it became mainstream, was a breaking away. It was a new thing. It was a new creation. So it kind of, his fighting style kind of embodies that push for something different, and the introduction of, like, almost a modernized version of the samurai lifestyle. But the other thing I wanted to point out too was pushing out the old way. That's what I was trying to say. But the other thing I wanted to point out too was the position of the women in this show, because one thing that I think we didn't talk about it, but it's easy to overlook, is when they were in that cage and they were talking about the war that was going to happen between the Kawaras and the Nagatomi. She asked, like, one of the other more seasoned prostitutes asked, like, you think that they're gonna let us free? They're not gonna let us free. This is gonna be a gang war. And so even though you have these two warring factions, where one of them does have an honor system and an honor code and you know, abides by said code, and the other person is obviously just selfish and has no honor, either way, it does not benefit the people that are caught up in this system. So they're still at the mercy of whoever's in, because even though Sasuke is now the ruler, I don't know who's advising him, but I highly doubt that he let all the harlots go. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's still that cruel reality of the world.
Yeah, it's a business, in the sense that if you are property owned or otherwise, like, it's different from, okay, the difference would be, whereas they're conning people to being at the brothel, the other people would be, if this is what you choose to do, if you're looking to make some money, that's where a madam, you know, would come in that kind of sense.
You know, I definitely get it.
It's more of a, like, no, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying, like, now it doesn't benefit them either way, because it's a commodity in that time. Like,
It's a commodity today, though, and that's the thing
But
about it.
there's
Like
more,
all of that, the gambling, the sex,
no. But
it's all just
yeah, but it's there's more control in that aspect, I think, today than obviously that there was then, in the sense that, listen, man, I'm not gonna get into an existential conversation about it, but I'm just saying, like, you can, like, Fashion Nova to OnlyFans, you got way more opportunity to do what you want to do versus the commodity is as.
Did you say Fashion Nova to OnlyFans?
Listen, what I'm saying is you can control your own destiny versus the commodity itself just being controlled.
Which means we've moved into a Mugen way of life.
In this feudal way. And I love the way this episode does that, in the sense that this is old school meeting the new school everywhere. This is a combination of all these ideals, and at the bulk of it, honor wins out. Now they don't like typically agree. It wins out in the sense that there is still hope for people that are doing different things. Like, even with Sosuke doing that, you can almost but guarantee that his life path isn't dictated to be like his father.
Right.
He's going to follow the honor of it because he's understood what it was and what it is, but he's a different thought process. So there's newness in that. There's still newness in the honor aspect. Whereas, all people who are on the opposite side, you still got to atone for that at some point.
Yeah.
Like, whether you think about it or not. So it's just,
I completely agree with
that. It was
that.
a really eloquent way of constructing episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I hated the fact that it was split up, but the through story was enough to where you at least get where they were going, because everything has kind of been about these vignette storylines, so to speak, in the sense that they are typical archetypes of being on the run kind of thing, Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing.
On a journey in general, it's more like a situation comedy. So like you have a different situation every time with the same characters.
You've had prison escape. You've had the bounty hunters that are coming after coming to get them. You've had
whorehouse escape.
Yeah.
You've had it all.
Well, you've even had traps set by the same
crazy man.
Well, not even that. I'm talking about the lady of the evening that tricked Mugen,
yeah.
In episode 2. So you've had a lot of different things.
Which also was another part of it. That was another part of the crazy man scheme.
Yeah. But either way, it's been more of a really, really good rewatching thus far. And kind of learning these things and learning how they're not as I'm about to cough.
I think I'm supposed to fill this in. But this episode was a really good combination of like that interjection or intersection of old and new, especially when you think about Fu's conversation with Osuzu about why she wouldn't leave. Like Fu's like ideals are very westernized in the sense that she's like, if you are uncomfortable, why are you taking the burden? That's a very Western ideology. That's definitely not old world. It's definitely not Eastern. And when Osuzu says it's because my family, that is a very specific to old world kind of mindset. Whereas, here in America and other places like that, we're very, very individualized. So it's a good clash.
Thank you. Sorry guys for that moment. But yeah, all in all, it was just a very well told story. And I like how they do that in all the episodes, where it's just kind of like these small parts of just general cinematic things. It's just really, really amazing. And I'm glad we're rewatching it. But anyway, do your thing.
All right. If you would like to get in touch with Icarus, you can get at him on Twitter at Icarus Gray. You can get at him on Instagram at Icarus_Gray. You can also get at me on Twitter at Prima Diva. You can get at me on Instagram at Prima Diva Red. We look forward to talking to you. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
All right, guys. Until then, keep watching. Anime is for everybody.